Hey, thanks for joining me for this talk on the half-black bumblebee Bombus vagans. This will just be a brief overview of the species. First of all, for some identification, Bombus vagans is a medium-sized bumblebee. The queen can reach up to 21 millimeters. So 25.4 millimeters is an inch. So this is well under an inch. The workers can get up to 14 millimeters in size. It's classified as a medium-cheeked bumblebee, that being that the cheek is just longer than broad, just barely. Then also another identifying feature is the base of tarsus. Remember, the tarsus is the last segment on the leg. In the middle leg, and I should say the base of tarsus is the largest section of the tarsus, which is right next to the tibia. So if you go up from the bottom of the middle leg there, you'll see small segments. That first big segment is the base of tarsus. On the middle leg, the far back corner is rounded on Bombus vagans. So those are some identifying characteristics. Now let's look at the hair and the color of the hair. So in terms of hair, hair on this species is long. The face will have black hair. The top of the head will have yellow hair with some black hairs mixed in, as you can see clearly on this image from J.C. Lucier. This picture was shot in British Columbia. The thorax is almost entirely yellow, both the top and the sides, except for a black spot that you can see clearly in this image. There will be black hairs. Now, in some workers, that spot can be more of a black band between the wings. So there's some variation. I strongly recommend you check out some resources to show you the variations. For example, the Bumblebees of North America book shows a lot of the variation, and some of the other web pages also have some of the variations. But check that out. And in terms of the abdomen, in addition to the T1, the T2 will be yellow, and that's just, again, that's just the tergite at the the upper section of the abdomen. The rest of the abdomen beyond that will be mostly black, and the underside will be black. So again, check out the textbook for variations in this. This is easily confused with a common eastern bumblebee, which looks very much the same, except for the T2 is usually black in that species, but there can be some variation. Please excuse this lousy rendition of a range map. I want to point out a couple of things. I kind of circled out the area, eastern Washington, Oregon, Idaho, going down even slightly below Boise, Idaho. The reason I did that is there's a Bumblebee Atlas listed recent surveys where they found Bombus vagans in this area, and said that 2% of all the bumblebees they sampled were Bombus vagans, and that's slightly more than they've had in the past. But in terms of the range, this is pretty widespread. We'll talk about habitat in just a minute, and you'll see why. But you can see this goes up into the boreal forest. So eastern forest from Newfoundland all the way across. There's actually been a sample up in the Alaskan Peninsula. I didn't put that on there. This is not in the Desert West. And let me go to the next slide where I can talk to you about habitat, and that'll explain the range. So pretty widespread, so a wide variety of habitats. And again, eastern forest, the boreal forest across Canada, going south along the Appalachians, out into the Great Plains. So this is a tall grass prairie, or according to the Montana Field Guide, where you have irrigated prairies and woodland riparian zones, you'll find them in there. They also note that this will be in the foothills of the mountains where you have grassland and forest ecotone. In other words, that transition area between grasslands and forest. So that's why this is pretty widespread, but not really in the arid desert areas at all of the Southwest. So what about its behavior? All this information comes from the Montana Field Guide, where they've assembled a bunch of information from different sources. They say that these bees will be active from April to October in terms of the queen, and then when the workers emerge sometimes in May and June, they'll be active until November. In terms of nesting, this is an underground nester with occasionally above ground nesting. And there's a study from Alberta, Canada, that says that nest establishment, or the colony, will be established mid to late June. And that in that study, the first brood had an average of 8 to 10 pupae in this Alberta study. Again, this all comes from the Montana Field Guide. What you're seeing here is a photo I took somewhere. It's actually near Fort O'Brien, just south of Machiasport, Maine, which is down east Maine. And here you can see it's on clover. Also, I want to point out, if you look at the wings, you see how the wings are a little beat up towards the periphery. So that posterior portion of the wing looks like it's ripped away. You can usually tell the age of a worker, which, you know, they're really an adult for maybe about a month, a little bit longer. But the longer they're flying around, the more those wings get beat up. And that's a good way to tell its age, relative age. So here's an image of a male on echinacea, and my thanks to Jay Watson from Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources for permission to use this. Note how scruffy the male looks, and the thorax is almost completely yellow. They also have yellow hairs on their face. They can have a band of black between their wings, so that's possible. But anyway, males will patrol. So they're going to do circuits in search of mates. That's their typical behavior. Montana Field Guide notes that there are at least 60 genera, or there are 60 genera of plants that this bumblebee feeds on. And this list is from Bumblebees of North America by Williams, Thorpe, Richardson, and Cola. Again, a good reference guide to have. And you can see everything from aster to violets that they list. So again, this is going to depend on the region. The plants that they're feeding on will depend on the region, and also the phenology, or the timing of the flowering. So my thanks to the Bumblebee Atlas, Bumblebees of North America, the Montana Field Guide, and the Wisconsin Bumblebee Brigade for the information that I got from their websites and the book. And I thank you for listening. So please join me again. My next video will be a brief one showing half-black bumblebee, Bombus vagans, feeding. Until next time, thank you.